XK to SK. Yeah, we can talk about SK, I guess. Yeah, you know what? SK is probably not a bad place. Yeah, we can talk about XK as well. Actually, Middlecore, Rude Dude, you're both in chat. And you guys both did a lot of LFL stuff this year. Either of you fancy coming on and chatting about XK? XL? I think that XL... Yeah, well, in fact, we'll put title contenders. That's probably the best way to put it, rather than just saying, oh, top 3. Title contenders. They're title contenders. I think they're title contenders. I'm not gonna... Yeah, we'll do a loose power ranking at the end. But yeah, Rude, I'm in my Discord if you want to just hop in and chat Exakick for a bit, because... Yeah, and wait, Irrelevant. Was Irrelevant on...
Irrelevant was also LFL. Hello.
Hey, how's it going, Rude?
Not bad,
Oh, also chat, let me know what audio's like with Rude in here as well. I don't know what it's like compared to me. But yeah, so let me just... I guess I can share my screen as well. I can do that. Yes. Yeah, that'll work. Cool. Alright, let me know if you can see it.
Yep.
Cool.
I got it.
Alright, so... We don't know what's happening with SK support. Top side... I don't know what's happening. I mean, Certus, I mean, there's no change from that, so maybe there's some room for me over there as well. But working off the assumption that it's Irrelevant, Marku, Certus, Exakick, how do you feel Exakick slots into this kind of team? Irrelevant was largely low resource on Misfits, but he did actually very well at the end of summer, to the point where he probably was Rookie of Summer.
Okay.
He had himself a really strong kind of performance there. Even on stuff like Sejuani, doing very well in matchups like that. His Gnar was pretty good too. Markoon, pretty much a known quantity at this point, actually very strong for someone coming out of ERLs. Is he like a top LEC jungler? I don't think he's bad. I don't think he's top 3, but I think he's definitely up towards. Like, he could, with a good year, cement himself as a higher tier kind of jungler. And then Certus is obviously a rookie in this year as well. Exakick, what's his identity? What do you think he needs from a team to succeed the best?
So, he's coming from a very engage-oriented support as well. Even when Enchanter meta happened, DOS would still just play Leona.
Leona Nautilus, I remember a lot of that. I remember a lot of that.
And then literally the back end, the very end, he's like, okay, I have to pick Yuumi, I have to pick Nami, whatever.
Yeah. Because for me, the thing about the DOS thing, because I talked about it in regards to Yike, right? In terms of, I think that for me, LDLC, so yes, Exakick, huge carry, but the way they played early game macro was DOS on something that could get early prio and then roam. So you'd have stuff like a Phalios Nautilus, which could fight very early on. Yeah. And then they just pile on mid on the correct wave, or just protect mid on the correct wave to kind of get Iker into a very strong scenario. And then suddenly it's like, okay, jungle support, very strong across the map. Exakick played pretty well in regards to actually still getting his own resources while DOS was going walkabout, and being a team fight threat. But it wasn't necessarily all about ganking bot lane.
No, it wasn't. He didn't get too much. Like, they would occasionally throw ganks, but it wasn't like, okay, our identity is focus bot lane. It is... Exakick can be pseudo weak-sided or not exactly played to, and then be a mega carry regardless. There was a big like difference between him and, for example, Crowny.
Yep.
Where I think that them and, was it Misfits Prem that he was on, right? For Crowny? I think that there was a very distinct difference.
Crowny was BDS Academy, right? Okay.
Yeah. Well, whichever team Crowny was on, he would get ruined because he couldn't play this weak side like Exakick would. I think that was a big factor that showed Exakick was actually very strong. So I don't know. When I look at this SK team, obviously we don't know support.
Yeah, and that's what I'm a little, because I really hope they keep treats. I really hope they keep treats, because I think treats actually really fits Exakick's style if that is the case.
Of being able to move around and
still
with Markoon.
Because I actually think SK throughout some, I don't think we're gonna keep much of the identity of SK coming into this split, which is really sad, because I actually think that SK at their best were actually a very dynamic team. There was that really good game halfway through summer where Mad Lions was still on form, crazy best team in the league kind of thing. And SK had a really close game against them because Treats was playing Nautilus, finding great ways to roam to mid, play against strong mid jungles, and actually punish them. Niski was on Talia and just got absolutely shut down. So actually that's a really good point, because I talked about how like G2 would like, well, I mean, Yike comes from his team, right? That's gonna be really fun. We're gonna have Yike versus X-Kick in that. That's a strong mid jungle 2v2. I think Xerxes VTO is less about the skirmishing, but I think that'll be a very interesting one too. Obviously LUA and Niski if that keeps around. There are a number of very strong mid jungles which I think I would really like to see someone like a Treats get to impact. Yeah. I think that'd be really important in like the LEC landscape right now. I would be very sad if he doesn't like keep his place on SK. I think that'd be a huge mistake.
My question would be for this SK team. Let's assume that Treats is in there. Is what would their identity then be if they? Because I think they could pivot to. Actually, let's focus Exakick. I will level you. I don't know enough about Certus to know whether that could be a place for them.
He's
to
fairly stable.
Play around.
He wasn't like a smash lane crazy mechanical rookie, but has some like macro stuff to work out. He was actually fairly reserved. He had some really good Akali games, actually. I think he solo killed Caps, like in the Akali versus Zir matchup. And I know that's the Akali-sided matchup in terms of the solo kills, but like he had some really strong individual performances. One of his most notable games was on Orianna, where he gets a 4-man shockwave versus, I think it was Misfits. Just kind of win a game there. Like he was actually, I think, in terms of expectations of a rookie going into the LEC, being a rookie in the LEC is just damn hard. There are very many good players. And particularly if you're going for ERL into LEC, you have to kind of just wander around and muddle around in the dark until you figure out early game macro and stuff like that. And often you can look very bad during that time. I didn't really get that.
You have to relearn how to play League of Legends, don't you?
Exactly. And I didn't get that from Certus. I think Certus is actually fairly stable. Oh, maybe it's DOS going up to SK, apparently, to Wooloo's Insta yesterday. Or a big name or DOS. Okay, so if this is DOS, does that change your opinion? So I think that Certus is not someone you play towards. I'll put it this way: I think out of these carries, you're playing towards Exakick.
Yes, that was what I would head toward. Right, that was if I could pick anyone on this SK team, I would pick Exakick. Because I also saw Irrelevant in the start of, because he played before when they still had, was it Hirit in Misfits top, and then they had a load of roster changes.
Yeah, he came in for Hirit in summer, so he played in summer. Summer was his first split.
Yeah, and I was seeing Irrelevant in LFL for the first couple of weeks, and that was when Misfits Premier looked very bad.
Really?
Yeah, but that wasn't just Irrelevant's fault. It's just the whole team. That was
just the way of things.
Yes. So I would pivot to Exakick as a carry for those 3 lanes. I think DOS. So I I don't know how I feel about DOS, because DOS is, if I say Baby Healer Sang, that'll give you a archetype that I'm heading towards, where he will win you a game or lose you a game off of his engages.
Yeah.
Like sometimes he will just engage and die, and it'll be, okay, well now they just get a load of vision around Baron, or it will be they engage and they win the game, you know? I don't think that he's got the...
Thank you for the follow.
I don't know that he has the consistency to be somebody who I would have put in immediately, but I actually think that if you put them in that situation, he will learn very quickly when and when not to engage. And I think that he probably also suffered from the I'm playing on LDLC in the LFL as opposed to I'm playing in the LEC with competent enemies.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, I actually think if you have someone like DOS, I think DOS and Marcoon could be a very interesting combo. I think that Marcoon, as rightfully, I'm trying to remember who said it in chat, but someone said in chat that actually Marcoon is one of the best early game junglers in the LEC. I think that's true. I do think that Marcoon and Mickey was really the X factor for XL though. Because Marcoon was very good on his own. I think in spring, when you saw Marcoon kind of playing like his own style, it'd be level 4 dive top lane pretty much every game. And you could pretty much see that coming.
Yeah.
Later into the year, XL, you know, they did that Korean boot camp. They kind of learned their early game macro from RNG and T1, and then they just kind of like copy paste that into the LEC, and it worked really, really well. But in the same way that I said it's very important for G2 to integrate Yike and show him the versatility of how to play jungle in the early game, which is something that obviously Jankos did incredibly well. It's one of his best points. Someone like Malorang, obviously, very good at that too. The LEC does punish junglers who get very typecast and don't know how to be versatile. I don't know if Markoon and... What would you think about Markoon and DOS if that were an important factor and they have to be diverse in the early game? Because I'm not sure.
No, I don't know how...
this will be a big test for them. If they're too typecast, I think that's a big problem for SK here.
So if DOS were... So, like I say, DOS only learned or only played in Chances. I'm not going to say learned. I don't know what he's played in, like, years and years have passed. But he'd been unsuccessful, I suppose, right? Like, he didn't win EU Masters, is not unsuccessful, but when it came to those, it wasn't winning, and I think that if you are then typecast, I agree with you. I could see there being them getting exploited quite easily. Okay, they're not, and I think that if DOS also has to learn how to play early game in LEC, then there's that situation of, okay, well, you've actually not... You've not walked as 3 people through this jungle. You've actually gone as 3 individuals with like 400 units between you, and LEC teams will just kill you as a solo in that situation.
I think SK could have the same problem that BDS had this year, where they have irrelevant rookie, Markoon, sure, got some tenure, but still not that experienced. Certus, rookie, Exakick, LEC rookie, DOS. You don't have the LEC...
I would prefer a big name than DOS. Because
which is why I'm like,
SK team, and I'd like,
keep treats.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, no,
treats
DOS. No,
fine.
you're right. DOS has been around, but like, these names are not LEC veterans in terms of they have adapted and grown up within the LEC environment and understand how the game is played at an LEC level on a team-wide level, and. Heck, I would say that about players which have even been playing in the LEC for like a year, sometimes even 2 years. Because you need... wait, there's a Wooloo tweet? Is there a new Wooloo tweet? What have we got?
Bot laner Reckles will return to Fnatic as AD carry.
Oh, shit! That's big news! Okay! Alright!
Put that in the spreadsheet. He's back.
Tweet within a minute for, you know, exposure. Put it in the motherfucking spreadsheet. Okay, alright, there we go.
Well.
So we have the Wrecking Crew.
All we are is incompetent.
It's the year of the LFL, holy. I'm going to be casting nobodies next year. Where did everyone go?
Oh, God.
What Yike does... so Yike has like a...
Charm, thanks for the follow, I appreciate it.
I think Yike had a patented Yike move where he would get either... And this is what I say about... This is why I said Ika being a great mid laner allowed him to do what he needed to.
Yeah.
Yike would start bot side and then just have winning top mid matchup.
Yeah.
Full clear his jungle, walk into the enemy top jungle, and put 2 wards down. He'd ward...
In summer,
top of Raptors, and then maybe just Krugs, and if he didn't do his Krugs, he'd steal the enemy Krugs, because he'd just know that they were up. And he'd put those 2 wards down, and he would track the enemy jungle for, like you say, like the first 8 minutes or so. And I think that the reason I put what I put was because Ika was always winning mid, he could always do that, and like those like first 2 minutes of lane, or 3 minutes of lane that Ika would always win, gave LDLC the next 5 minutes of early game for free, because no jungler could ever do anything, because Yike was just like, okay, play safe top, jungler's top side, and they could never lose.
Oh, I'll put your name into the okay, your name's in the stream title. There you go. Okay, well, that's SK. I think it feels a bit bad to boil it down to. I think they all have experience issues. This is the same problem as Twitter character limit. What that ends up meaning is that you have problems with early game macro and actually getting your carries online. I don't think that Certus is going to be a pressure point. I think that Certus needs to really step up to be a pressure point for this team. I think that he is fine when supported by lots of experienced players that have their own points of pressure. I don't know if Irrelevant is going to be that carry player as well. I think they'll have problems finding a primary carry to take that responsibility to be played around and be a pressure point.
I agree with that. To go off of that point, there's like, I don't know whether to call it a concept or just an idea that. So for example, Ica was the best mid laner in LFL, by far, but he's not got a spot right in LEC.
Actually, I mean, if that's the case, who would you? Let's go back to like the full rostery stuff over here. Who would you replace as a mid laner for Ica? Maybe you could put him over Certus. Maybe I think Certus is fine.
I don't know that I would, honestly. I think what would be really good for teams is if an academy or for example, a JDXL picked up Ica and then used him to mentor.
You realize that JDXL are leaving the NLC.
Yeah, I know. It was the point of an academy team,
yes,
right?
Yeah.
If they picked him up and used him to mentor new talent, like the same goes in NA, where Darshan has been C9's top laner and probably a top 3 top laner in academy for the last 2-3 years now.
Yeah.
But never goes back to LCS because he's got that veteran.
Oh, I forget you do NA academy stuff. Yeah. That's a big point, actually. It's like, actually, what are you, in terms of long-term learnings, what are you getting here? It's actually the same problem with a lot of minor regions, but I'm sure you can talk about this from CBLOL standard as well, where you have a big player coming in, and either they leave after a year, and it's like, wow, you've got all these results. Now you have learned nothing from it because all that learning is gone with that player elsewhere. Or like they just stick around, taking away a spot, being a middling team within this kind of region, not really imparting much, and then just kind of like taking up a spot where there should realistically just be another player in their place.
I'm not sure the point. Sorry, my point I was making was that it's very good for Ica to be on the team to teach all these new players how to play League.
Oh, sorry, that's the positives of it. Okay, right, that's the positives part of it. Yeah, okay, I was taking
it was a positive,
angle.
And that's why I liked Ica. Like all the LDLC people had gone up because of him being able to impart all of this League of Legends knowledge because he's played for so long. And the same sort of thing happens in LCS LEC, where we don't have that for SK Gaming because there's not a big tenured player on their roster. If it is if it's slash big name, for example, Treats, some other support, then they have that and they've got like that voice who's going to be, guys, I've played in this league for 4 years now. This is how you
play at this level. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why I think that your experience issues is certainly going to be pertinent.
Yeah. So I think, again, SK, as much as I like a lot of the names on here, I think together they're going to have a real problem with trying to learn how to play the game at an LEC level. I think that's why I really like Marcoon. I actually really like all of these names, actually. I even like even Darcy, even though he's had some of his inconsistencies. I really like all these names. I just think you need more of a leadership figure. And I don't know if they have that in this 5. So I think, sadly, SK are probably looking at, bottom 4 again.
I think if Exakit could slot into a team that had somebody that knew how to just coach them through in this situation, if they had a big name, I would be way more happy with it. But I think he's going to have to be a big carry for this SK side.
Yeah.
And so I don't know how.
Sadly, I think this is a team where if everything goes wrong, this could legitimately be bottom 2. I think that if Soda steps up and Irrelevant continues his form, and Marcoon and DOS there's a lot of moving parts here, folks, because the more I think about it, it's like, Soda has to step up, but then also Irrelevant needs to be really good, and then, actually, Marcoon and DOS need to figure out a way to play together and play out the early game, and then also that needs to last through the entire split, and then Soda also needs to be... I'm like... Maybe they could crack. Maybe they could crack.
We'll probably
6th.
See a game, won't we? We'll probably see a game where you look at like, if SK played like this the entire season, they could definitely, challenge playoffs. But the likelihood is that they're probably not going to have that for every single game, and you'll get one glimpse of it, and they'll probably beat like G2 or something, right? They'll probably just take down standard, G2 in a game. And
they'll just scrap. They'll just scrap. They're good enough to scrap. But I think SK could face similar issues to BDS, and hearing about what's happened with BDS and stuff in terms of like, actually they didn't have a leadership figure, actually they couldn't really find anything to start building off of because everything was going wrong for most of the time they had that roster. Like, I think that could be the worst case scenario for SK. I think you could see it maybe they luck out, maybe they find a way to figure out one way to play out the early game, and it works in the best of ones, which of course we are going to, I mean, with the rumored format change, you're still going to have best of ones at the start of the split. I think they can take some best of ones if they luck out on how they're playing the early game. They need that to happen. So let's finish up on SK there.